So, there was this big announcement a few days before Nationals. It turns out that DRL had lowered their age limit to 16. Evan Turner is 16. You don't think that certainly they wouldn't have done that just for him. No, not at all. Hey, I just want to thank my patrons. You guys are great. Thank you. I've been getting a lot of messages. It's a lot of fun. Really appreciate all that you do and all that you contribute. It's great having a group of people rooting for me. If you would like a podcast version of all of these episodes, including the massive 2-hour Evan Turner episode, check a link in the description below. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. So, transitioning into the next part of the interview. Was it a few days before Nationals? DRL spontaneously announces that they're lowering the age limit for a contract to 16.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Of course, I mean, I believe it, and I think all the speculation was that DRL was like, well, I mean, we want Evan Turner in, like, to race with us. And I you ended up pulling the DRL contract because you won. Do you think that the what were your thoughts when they lowered the age to 16? Did you know that was coming? Or can you not speak on that? Or
no, I genuinely, and I mean this, you can ask any of my closest friends. Like we went into the race, we showed up in Orlando like, man, I wish I could get the DRL contract this year,
right.
et cetera, et cetera. We were all, and I said some things online about how like, oh man, I wish I could get the DRL contract this year, et cetera, et cetera. So I really had no idea. But the time that it was announced and it was really the perfect timing. And I still remember turning around and seeing everyone's face because it was right when I was flying, actually. And I set my TQ time, one of the faster times. And while I was flying, it was announced.
No
and
way.
So I landed my quad. I was obviously excited about getting a good time.
Yeah.
And I like take out my phone or whatever, and I just like scrolling through, and then my Facebook just exploded. And I got all the messages, and then before that, like as soon as I turned around, everyone was just like staring at me with big eyes, and they're like, "Do you know what just happened?" I'm like, I mean, I just had a good time. I'm excited. And then they're like, no, look at this. And then, of course, they made like the really cool graphics saying like the 18 and the 16 that shows that that's the new age range.
Yeah.
So then everyone was coming up to be like asking me all these questions about if I'm feeling any extra pressure and things like that, because like, and now I have all this extra pressure because I can make it on and things like that. And then, of course, now all the other guys who had come expecting to be able to get third, fourth, whatever,
and take a contract,
still make it in. Yeah, because they are 18 and I'm not. They were obviously under a lot of pressure because they knew that they had to push to get that now. So everyone, I'd say it really made everyone experience pressure a lot more. I know Andy Marichilian, who Dolma FPV, he has been wanting to be on DRL forever, and I know that me and him talked about it because we were only one of the few that were in that 16 to 18 range, which is like a pretty weird range, I'd say, and especially like at the top or whatever. And so me and him both specifically had talked a lot about it, and we were really excited. And I know that we were both under more pressure. But yeah, it was. I don't know if it's coincidentally or what, but yeah, right after I set that good time, they announced it. Everyone pulled it up on Facebook, and everyone was talking. And like I said, my Facebook exploded. But yeah, I had no idea. And so I really just tried to tell myself, like, I'm just going to fly how I normally would fly. I had a little bit of pressure taken off of me because I knew Vanover had the contract anyways.
Yeah, he already had the
contract. So Vanover could technically beat me, and I'd still get the contract, which I thought would be pretty funny since I passed it down the year before.
You beat him, but he got the contract last year.
Yeah,
which is not to take away from Vanover at all, because he ended up going on to win the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. He went on to win. So exactly.
Yeah.
But that was definitely a possibility. So that was good. But yeah, it ended up that it was announced, And then we went over the pilots didn't even know, or at least they played it off like they didn't know, the DRL pilots, because like Jet was there with Hobby Wing, Nurk was there with Hobby Wing and DRL and things like that. And then they were like looking at their DRL pilot chat, because after my qualifying run, I went over to watch the other guys. It's just, I enjoy racing that much. I just want to go and watch and cheer on other people, make sure everybody has their quads working, and if they need props or whatever, just to help out. And I went over there, and that's where the Hobby Wing tent was, and Jet and stuff. There's a funny picture that we have somewhere of Jet making like a scared face or something, because you saw the 16-year-olds that could make it in. I was totally unexpecting, and some people won't believe that, but I genuinely just didn't know that it was going to happen, and I'm really happy it did, obviously. It was a huge thing, and it made me feel pretty dumb because of just not being as prepared as I should have been for nationals, especially if I knew that the DRL contract was going to be. So that definitely didn't help me out, because long story short, and I won't go into this, I went into this in the AMA podcast that I did. Okay. So long story short, I didn't have motors for nationals, and then I showed up to nationals with like 2 quads, and I was like, okay, they were like different. And then I didn't have 5S batteries, because these motors were meant for 5S, but I had to run them on 6S and like limit, hope I didn't explode anything. And then I was supposed to get this package from Xnova that got lost in packaging and like DHL. So then that had to be sent to my house, and then my mom, who was already coming, she had to pick it up from DHL office and fly with it, this big box, down to here. And then Armando on the second day, so we went through practice day, and I had 2 quads that had like crazy motors that I had to run on 6S and limit, and that was bad. But we handed him to Mondo, and he went and rebuilt all my quads with new motors that I had never used before, and they were totally different weight and everything. Yeah. And then I had to go into qualifying that day, and I made the decision of I'd rather have 6 quads that I knew worked, and I'd rather have 6 quads that I'd never flown before than 2 quads that I knew worked and have a good chance of exploding because of how high KV they are. Yeah. So I went into qualifying, had 3 batteries that day. I didn't go practice at all, and I just first one is pretty rough. Second one, a little better. And then the third one, that was my TQ run, was the 3rd pack on those motors. And so that was interesting. But
now, hold on. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but were you flying the Vanover motors?
No.
Oh, you weren't? Okay. Were those are your new motors?
I almost ran Vanover's motors.
Okay.
So I was obviously in a total frenzy looking for motors at this point, because I was like, oh, I hope they get to my mom and get down to me. So then my dad actually had a set of extra Vanover motors. I'm like, Dad, I'm going to take these. Hopefully they work. So I ended up soldering them on a quad. And then luckily those Xnova motors came in, and we were able to put those on, and I didn't have to. But I had them on a quad. They were ready to be used, but I didn't end up using them just because I only had 1 set of Vanover motors, which would have been even worse. Because I just wanted – I told people, I don't care what they are. I just want a good amount of them, just so I can break quads and I can just switch over. Yeah. So those Xnovas finally came in, and they weren't my motors. They were the 2207 1950 kV LR Xnovas, which was their it was one of their newer motors actually at the time. The higher kV, and it made sense to run that. And so it ended up working out great. I was able to get the top qualifier with them. I got some practice with them, which was good. But it was, like I said, it made me feel really dumb to not be prepared, especially since they announced the DRL contract after I'd already arrived. Wow. Because to be quite honest, I wasn't really prepared for nationals this year, especially. I had been just procrastinating getting motors in certain parts, and then I was like, okay, I'll just go down there and make the best of what I got and stuff, and just do as best I can. And then, because especially since I couldn't get the DRL contract, I was like, well, if I can't get the DRL contract, I can get the money, which would be nice and stuff like that, but I can't get the contract. And then I get down there, and then of course on practice or qualifying day, they announce it. I'm like, you're telling me that I could get a DRL contract? I didn't.
Could you guys have not told me this a week ago?
Yeah, exactly. You should have given me 2 weeks. Maybe I could have.
Heads up, man. Literally, I'm heads up. Give me a heads up.
Yeah, exactly. I needed the heads up, but I didn't get it. But we ended up getting it all. It ended up working out. They ended up being fantastic motors, and Nationals was the reason that I ended up working with Xnova to get my motor made with 533. Just because I realized how amazing of the quality that they were able to produce. So luck, that ended up just being a coincidence. It ended up working out really, really well. That has led me on to do multiple business things with them, making my own motor 3533, and they're producing it. So it worked out really well. It was a coincidence, but it was a oh crap moment at the moment, just because I'd never flown these, but it ended up working out, as I said.
So, long story short, you picked up the DRL contract.
Yes.
So what was more exciting to you? Was winning nationals more exciting, or was picking up the DRL contract more exciting?
Well, I'll go through like the checklist in my head of what like I was thinking. So the first one was probably I beat Vanover. The second one was the second one.
I don't care where we ranked.
Yeah.
I beat Vanover.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that I won.
Right.
I beat Vanover.
I beat Vanover.
The second one was probably I won. And then the third one, so everyone was all excited about me winning. And then, so that was great. All my good friends were all behind me, cheering me on. I gave them all hugs and stuff. And so that was the best part, was just seeing how excited and happy my friends were to see me succeed. And, they supported me the whole time. They were making sure my batteries were always charged, especially after the first incident. And it was really, really awesome to see how happy they were for me. And then Tony Niddle, who's Canoodle, he one of the announcers for the DRL, he was there holding the DRL jersey that says like winner on the front, multi-GP. And that's when I like kind of settled in, and I like grabbed the DRL jersey, and I'm sure there's a video of it somewhere. And me just realizing like, oh, I'm going to be able to be on the DRL. And it was just so crazy because I wasn't expecting to be on the DRL a week ago. It was just like that the day before they'd announced it. And then it was just like a huge rush of being able to like, wow, this happened all in like 2 days that they announced this, and I was able to get it. So yeah, that order is probably about what happened in my head. But yeah, I don't know which one I was more excited about. I was probably pretty equal, the whole three. But yeah, I was just happy in general. My whole family was there watching, so they were all coming down. My dad he was able to stop playing t-ball with my brother and come congratulate me, because for those who don't know, my dad gets extremely, extremely nervous when I fly, like crazy, like about to throw up most of the time, nervous.
I actually messaged him while you were flying, and I don't remember, there was one moment that was just like bonkers. I don't remember when it was. It was sometime in the final 16, and I wish I could remember, but at this point, it's been a little while. And I messaged him on Facebook Messenger, and I was like, man, did you see that? And he was like, I don't watch him. He's like, I'm in the parking lot. I'm playing t-ball. I don't want to think about it. I feel like I might throw up. I was like, okay, man, you go back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I really haven't seen him in a long time, like at a race. Especially when the brackets start, he'll be there talking to me in between, and like when we're practicing and whatnot, just hanging out, talking to everybody. But once the brackets hit, he is just out of there. Like from the very first, it doesn't matter if I'm flying against the person who can't even make it through a gate. He is just shaking over there. So I've seen him a couple times, and he's always like hunched over, like just scared, like hiding in the bathroom, something just crazy. Like I kid you not, I've seen him hiding in a porta potty watching the stream. Like he just gets so nervous, and he tries to.
Go ahead.
So he makes sure I don't see him, because he knows that if I see him like throwing up over the railing, that I'll get nervous and stuff. So he usually pretty much avoids me during that, but it really is pretty funny, and especially hearing from other people, because everyone else will be like, dude, I just went to the parking lot to like go get something for my car, and I saw your dad t-ball, like freaking out, like huddled up position over there.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's normal. But
oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, I mean, just taking a momentary side note, like as a dad, my sons compete in things, but it's definitely not drone racing right now. Though I think that they're young enough that they could actually, if the racing scene were to pick up around here, I think that they could do something. Yeah, I mean, I totally get why he feels that way, and it's kind of like, I don't know, like it really hit home when he said that. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is kind of freaking terrifying.
Yeah.
So like it's not, and then like, I always like, and this is a silly comparison, but it is a comparison. My oldest son does what is it? It's called academic challenge. It's like quiz bowl trivia, that kind of thing. He's really good at it. And we'll be sitting there and I'll be at matches and he'll, buzz in and answer. And he's typically the kid that answers all the questions. And, he'll buzz in and answer and he'll miss it. And I have to fight to keep my face stable, where it's like, and I'm just there, I just keep a smile on my face. But yeah, so I get where your dad's coming from. It's a little nerve wracking watching your kids compete. So, DRL goes in, they lower the age to 16. You and Vanover by far were the favorites to win. I think you were actually the favorite. Despite going to the race without any quads. And that is not to take away from Bitmata or Drobot at all, because I think they're both extraordinary competitors. But yeah, I mean, this season of DRL that's coming up, I mean, the storyline is going to be Vanover versus Headsup.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about that?
So it's obviously going to be a change of pace compared to what I've been doing now. It's like, obviously, like there's been headlines like that before, like going into these races. And any race that me and Vanover show up, everyone wants to be like, just hype up that me and him are going to be racing and whatnot. And, me and him both realize that we talk all the time, and we both know like that it's just racing and whatnot, and that everyone's going to be watching and giving us crap about who's winning and who's not. But being on DRL will be even bigger for me, at least, because I've never experienced being on like NBC and things like that, to where it's being broadcast not only people in the industry but
it's
people just on like a sports bar or like Buffalo Wild Wings, wherever,
right? And
everyone's knowing that it's me versus Vanover or whatever. And I'm not, and it's not that. Especially,
and that, by the way, I just want to state, and I think you're about to say it, that is not to take away from the other pilots in DRL, because they're all just stellar pilots. Vanover won this year, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But, I mean, it seems, it seems like, and Vanover and I talked about this, as I watched through all the episodes, it just felt like it was Vanover versus everybody else during the entire sportscast, if you will. And Vanover even said that kind of portrayed it, that actually played out on the set. That it was, there were a lot of times where he would end up, it'd be one head to head, him versus someone else, and everybody be cheering for whoever else was racing him, right? Like everybody wanted to beat Vanover. So I don't want to take away from guys like Jet and Nurk and Fluxy, and they're all amazing. But yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to be on a bigger stage. I mean, does that make you nervous at all, or?
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying, it's like most people, and I've heard the argument from multiple people in the industry saying like, no, all these other people from the top 8 from multi-GP should be on DRL because they're beating all these DRL pilots. And it's like, that's on 5-inch quads. And what most people have to realize is like, these people they're not going for like the $1,000 or $5,000 for multi-GP prize. Like they're going for DRL. So they're practicing for that. They're not splitting their time. And for those who've never flown a Racer 4 or any bigger, slower quad like that, like it does not translate over. So even though they might put in thousands of hours practicing on the DRL quad, like it's not going to transfer over. And they might not be the fastest pilots on 5-inch, but they all are on the DRL for a reason. That's because they're the best. And I've seen it firsthand, like Jet. I went to a 5-inch race, and he doesn't normally 5-inch race, but like from the very beginning, he's like, yeah, I've flown a 5-inch squad in a long time, just flying DRL. And he just went out there, and from the very first practice pack, he was really rough, like in the middle of the pack. And throughout the whole time, he just slowly started to like gain his wings back. And by the end, he was like a very, very competitive guy. And that was just like one day of racing. Mm-hmm. So all those guys have the potential to do that. It's just they put their time towards that. So they are by far the best, in my opinion. And they're on that show for a reason, for not only being the best pilot, but being great just viewers in the public and things like that. Everyone wants to. They're good guys and things like that. So
I mean, Jet and Nurk, and I've talked to Jet and Nurk both on this show. Two of the nicest freaking guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like literally two of the nicest guys. Like they have every reason to be cocky and not talk to anybody, but they're just regular down to earth guys.
And that's who you want supporting the sport. So
Yeah.
they definitely do an amazing job of that. So, but as far as like going into DRL, like I know Vanover was extremely confident going in, saying he's going to beat everybody, lap everybody. I don't have that. I just plain and simply don't have that mindset. It's just that, especially with that stage, these quads, these guys have like, I think Jet, this will be his 5th year on the DRL, which is just amazing to think that DRL has been along for 5 years and doing as good as it has been, which is awesome. But I'm going in and I just want to be able to get better and better throughout the season, just like Jet was at that 5-inch race. He started off middle of the pack. He knew he was good, but he just hadn't had the skill or the time on the sticks and things like that everyone else did. They didn't have the experience of the 5-inch lately, and but then over time he just got to where he regained his wings, I'd say, and he was able to be one of the best guys there by the end. And that'd be my goal, is not to go in and just win the first one, because I know that that's highly, highly unlikely, especially with all those guys' experience. And just to be on a stage like DRL, you can't just show up and dominate. And so it's going to be super, super tough. But yeah, ultimately, I'd like it to be where, of course, anyone would like to be at the top, but I'd love to have the opportunity to go like 1v1 against Vanover and stuff, and I'm sure he'll be talking crap, and I'll have to just fly and hopefully do good or whatever. But I really think this year is going to be one of the most competitive years of DRL, just like multi-GP was this year. It's like the depth of talent is going to be just as good as it ever has been, if not better. And it's just the racing is going to get closer and closer. I know that Blake Sams, he was over at my house this weekend for the Tiny Whoop race, and he lives about 2 hours away from me. So me and him were already talking about getting a practice schedule set up so he can come over and I can go over there and practice for DRL to make sure we push each other to do as good as we can, because we're really good buddies. Yeah, I know Vanover has, like, anyone who's on top always has the target on their back. Yep. So I know everyone's pushing to get Vanover. I know after talking to Nub, I know Nub really wants to get Vanover, as well as all the other pilots. So Vanover definitely has the upper hand. He's got the experience now. He's got the race floor he's been practicing with, even on the off season and things like that. So he's really been pushing, and so he's going to try and outwork us all. And I know he's definitely through seeing him practice for 5-inch, he's definitely got the work ethic to do so. So it's really going to be having good quality practice, because being that I'm a full-time student, he's not. I'm going to have to work in flying as much as I can while still doing good in school, just to balance that all out. So I might not be able to practice as much as him, but I really just try to make sure that the practice I do have is quality practice that I can put in, that I know will help me to in the racing scenario. So I really have no idea what to expect on DRL, but I'm excited to see what it is, and hopefully just gain the respect of the other guys, and hopefully do better throughout the year.
So the one refrain that I've gotten from Jet, Nurk, and Vanover is that flying in DRL is a whole different experience than flying anything else. Number one, you're flying these massively epic locations, right? Like stadiums and all kinds of crazy stuff. But also you, and what a lot of people might not know that don't race, or they don't race like this, is that like the how heavy is the Racer 4? It's like over a kilo.
Yeah, I think it's 1.2 kilograms.
And it runs what, 6-inch or 7-inch props?
7-inch props. He runs a big 5S, like 2200 mAh battery.
Right.
And and it just, I think you can
tank.
It's
and the GoPro.
And the GoPro. They say it can go full throttle for like 2.5 minutes. So like, just if you just sit there and hold full throttle, it'll go for 2.5 minutes. So it's a pig, but it'll keep going.
Yeah.
But so it's a whole different animal compared to our 5-inch quads.
And one of the things that all three of those guys said was that when you're racing 5-inch, you can teleport, right? If you break out of a line, you just gun the throttle, you can get back into the line. Vanover the first. So I interviewed Vanover 3 times throughout the DRL season, and the first time he was like, "I'm going in, I'm going to win everything." Right. The second time he came back on, he said, "Wow, this is the hardest racing I've ever done.
Yeah.
I'm still going to win. But I'm having to reset my expectations." Because it is, I mean, it's basically spec racing, and there's no opportunity to teleport. If you make a mistake, that's it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about, like, how are you going to train for that, and like what's the first step you're going to take to get into that mindset?
So I've been doing some other racing leagues in the past that have been like bigger races that have been in crazy locations and things like that through other leagues. So I definitely have I've done things like that similar to DRL, but it's never been DRL, and that's a whole different ball game. But as far as like, and a lot of people don't know this as well, is so for nationals, I'm a big believer in simulator racing. So like sims, like the DRL sim, the Velocitron, etc. They host races like once a week. They have races all the time, and that is real life racing. So you're not flying in your yard alone, just trying to beat your time or make it look faster, etc. That is you racing against a real life person with real life like pressure and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I'd say for nationals, I'd say 90% of my practice was on a simulator of some sort, which compared to someone like Vanover or someone like that, that is just not even close to theirs. Is like 5% on the simulator.
I mean, Vanover was saying he's putting 100 packs through his rigs a day.
Yeah, he is, and like people know his work ethic is really, really impressive. And that's just not something that I really do. I'm not going to say I don't have the work ethic, but that's just, I have a different practice regimen, I'd say, and it's something that it's obviously been able to. I've found like kind of tailored it to where I can be successful and not pushing myself to where I get burnt out, but not flying enough to where I'm not getting good practice. But the sim racing it keeps me interested in it because I'm flying against other people. I can communicate with people, and like flying alone, like it's fun and all, but like I'd rather fly with other people, and it just makes it more fun to compete with everybody else. Mm-hmm. So I think between Velocitron and DRL, there are 3 sim races a week. And I will tell people over and over again that real life race experience is better than any practice they can do alone ever. Like it's like exponentially better, which is why I'm so excited and lucky to be so close to Blake, is that we'll be able to have real race experience all the time because we live so close to each other.
Right.
So I was, instead of practicing in my yard in the cold and breaking my quads, it was probably because of why I procrastinated so much, is because I didn't have to fly my quads that much because I was on the sim so much. But I was just able to practice on the sim. So I think it was like Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I would have a sim race every single night. And that was me racing against the real people. That was me having to like experience the pressure of racing at the absolute, because on the sim, we're flying at a way higher level than we are in real life. We have way more stick time on the track. We're not worried about breaking our quads. And the level of flying is just light years beyond that. So my idea is just that if I can practice flying under pressure at like 200% speed, then when I go into racing at that same pressure at 100% speed in real life, that I'll be more prepared. So I like to fly on the sim, and I always have to, it helps me work on passes, knows when people are going to make mistakes, knows when they're under pressure, know how to handle it myself, how to know when to pass, because instead of pushing the whole race to keep ahead of somebody, especially when I spot for other people, I try and tell them that they don't have to be ahead the whole time. And especially in a really, really good tactic is to not be in the lead the whole time, is just to wait behind the person at first and just fly your own race and not push yourself too much. And then, especially if they're not super experienced, don't listen to the auditory signs, is they'll start to relax and think that everybody's down or can't keep up with them, etc. And they'll start to relax. And in that last lap or half lap, then it's super easy to pass them because they're relaxed and they're not in that focus mode where they're trying to push. So if you can just stay focused and things like that, then you can make that last pass. And it's really hard for them to go from that relaxed mode back into like the, oh crap, I need to go get them mode. So I think that just learning little things like that is just something you can't learn back here in my backyard alone. So that I find was a really, really good thing for me. And I plan on doing that for many races in the future, is getting as much exposure to actual racing as I can. So going back to what you said, so I don't have the same practice regimen as Vanover and things like that, but it's different, and it works well for both of us. But I definitely think that using that to prepare myself for DRL, I'm going to have to just keep that same pressure on myself with sim races. Obviously racing with Blake, one of the best pilots in the world on DRL, is going to be super, super helpful because he'll obviously learn where I make mistakes and I'll learn where he makes mistakes. And then we can obviously talk and learn where everybody else what does and make each other better. So I'm really, really excited for that. But it's just going to be the only way I can truly, truly be prepared is just to go and experience it myself. So I'll have to go there, learn from everybody else's mistakes, especially learn from all the ones that I'll definitely have, and just go from there and just put that towards bettering myself races down the future to hopefully give myself a good chance seasonally.
You know, what's interesting is that you are the only one that has ever answered the question of how do you prepare for the high intensity winning moment.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to hear you say that. It's like, I mean, I've never flown like I'm a Mac guy. I don't have a high performance PC that run, with massive graphics cards or anything. So I haven't done a lot of sim racing or sim flying at all. I've done a little bit. But I know that both my sons have actually done a little bit of sim flying. I think we've got, I don't know which sim we got. But it's really interesting to hear you say that like there's a whole lot of value in sim racing because it puts you in the moment of the actual competition. Which, I've asked a few people about how do you prepare for that competition aspect at that level, and no one's ever been able to answer that. So I don't know. It sounds like a good tactic to me.
Yeah, it really is. And most of the time, if you go back and watch any of the like Velocitron or DRL races, the races on the sim are even closer than what they are in real life because you are running the identical quad to everyone else. So it's a lot like DRL. And then if you're flying the DRL sim, you're flying the Racer 4, which is meant to fly like a Racer 4. So it's really like a real-life DRL race on a simulator, and it's even closer than a real-life one because everyone's just has that extra stick time on the sticks. You're fighting against guys who have practiced hours and hours on that track before the race on the sim. And things like that, and you even have the same commentators. Like we have Canoodle on there who's always commentating, and then like it's so. I think, in my opinion, it's just such a good way to prepare. And most people argue like, oh, it's not exactly the same, or it's not. It doesn't fly like my 5-inch because you're flying Racer 4, and it's like It's not that you're trying to simulate the way the quad flies. You're trying to get the most race experience, and that's what I think I've gained from it the most. Is just it might not fly exactly like my quad. It's obviously very similar. But it's just you learn how to handle yourself under that pressure, how to like mitigate that insane pressure and flying under those circumstances, and that will help you exponentially more than just like flying a lot in your backyard and saying like, oh, that was fast. Like that's I mean, obviously you have to have the skill, but having that race experience will help even more, in my opinion. So that's how I practice, and I plan on doing that in the future.
So I've got two more questions for DRL. The first one is, you mentioned earlier what your checklist was for nationals. What's your checklist for DRL?
Well, anytime Vanover's involved, it's usually beat Vanover, and I'm sure, and I know for a fact his is the same way, just with my name at the top. Beat me, and me and him were just so competitive. Like he was over at my house this weekend, and we played Mario Kart together, and that was a huge mistake. So. It was me,
Who won?
Ryan, and Vanover. I hate to admit it, but Vanover won.
Oh, no.
Well, I think so. We started at like 10, and it was just started out for fun. Like Drew brought his Switch over, and it was for fun. Next thing you know, it was like 3 a.m. We're sitting there like with screaming at each other, like trying to kick each other, and while we're racing. Drew's putting money on the line. Like, it just got really intense really fast.
That's awesome.
So, me and Vanover competing over anything is usually a pretty bad idea, in my opinion. But, it's just so fun for us to compete. It's just, we're always neck and neck, always trading places and things like that. And it just makes it really fun. So, beat Vanover is number 1. I'd say finish the race is number 2 because if Vanover crashes and I crash, as long as I crash after him, that means I beat him. So, beat Vanover. Not crash, and then after that, I'd say like hopefully win the race. And then number 4 is have a good interview after. My goal is to have to be good at interviewing, make people. Because another part of that's a whole other aspect of DRL is to be likable to the show because you want the fans cheering for you. That obviously gets you more opportunities through DRL to go do other things. So I'd like to be good at interviewing. I know it's not. I might not be naturally good at it or whatever, but it's something I hope I can be good at and hope the fans. To like it or whatever. But yeah, it's hopefully I get to experience at least some of those things throughout the DRL season. I have no idea what to expect throughout the whole thing, but hopefully I get a chance to at least win a heat or a level or anything like that. And I just think it'd feel so amazing to do that on the main stage, like DRL offers.
All right, so my final question on DRL. Like I said, they're probably going to play off of the U-verse Vanover thing for most of the season. If it comes down to it, all right, and this is a super important question, which of you can grow a beard faster?
It's funny enough, we talked about this.
No, are you kidding me?
Because in Korea, we were going to be on like television in Korea, and I was looking for a razor. And so I'm 16, Vanover's 19. So, because I get like the sideburns and things like that, like the little like mustache thing.
Right.
And Vanover does not. So I was like, Vanover, do you bring one? He's like, no, like I don't have to shave. So, to answer your question, I will grow a beard first.
That's awesome.
And Vanover, I don't care what place he gets, I don't care what place I get, I will have to shave before a DRL event, and he will not. So, that is your answer. I'll live
That is the best answer, I think, all night.
Knowing Vanover, he'll probably start trying to grow a beard, like with my hair or lotion or something, just to say he can beat me back, and who knows. But I'm sure it'll be a competition now, so you can grow a better beard.
The first race of DRL, Vanover and Evan Turner both show up with terribly patchy beards.
Yeah,
it's like, man, these kids look like crap.
I'll let you know who wins. I'll let you know.
All right, yeah, you let me know. I predict that competition might go on for a few years.
yeah. Especially with Vanover, it might take him a while. He's got to take some crazy supplements to get that.
All right, we're so off the track now. All right, that was fun.
I mean, Evan, I don't know that I 100% believe him that he wasn't really worried about competing at nationals this year, but for DRL to announce while he takes the TQ that they had lowered the age to 16 certainly put a fire in his belly. And it sets up the narrative for next season, which is Evan Turner versus Alex Vanover. Now, that's not to take away from any of the other pilots, because all these guys are freaking amazing. But you can already tell this is how they're positioning it. This is how they're going to do it. Last year's DRL World Champion, Alex Vanover, who came in as the young rookie and took the championship, versus the new young rookie who is Alex's nemesis. And I mean, come on. Like, you can't script a TV show better than this. And it's sports. Anyways, in our next episode, we're going to talk about what Evan Turner has done with all of his winnings. The hint is that he has not bought a Lamborghini. Talk to you soon. Bye.